Hello everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're going to make an apple tart. It's fall season and I am sure you are seeing many desserts out there using apples, and that's because they are so beautiful, so abundant. There are so many different varieties that you can choose from. And actually it's even nice if you take a mixture and do maybe 2 or 3 different varieties in your apple dessert. So this one is super simple, perfect for during the week. And we're actually going to not even roll out our dough. We're going to just press it into our tart pan. You can use a glass pie plate and make this more of a pie than a tart, but we're going to do it in a tart pan. Okay, so the first thing you need is 1 cup of flour. I suggest that you go in and spoon in your flour into your cup. And actually, I aerated my flour. I mixed it and really moved my flour around so that it's nice and light. And this way here, you're not using too much flour into your recipe. So I'm just spooning it in, and then I will just level it off. You can use a knife or pastry scraper, which is what I have right here. Just level off your flour. And I have a bowl here with a strainer, and I'm actually going to pass my flour through the strainer. I'm using unsalted butter for this crust, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt. If you use salted butter, then you don't need to add any salt here. So I use a nice fine sea salt, and just 1/4 teaspoon will do it. Put 1/4 teaspoon of salt in with your flour, and then you just want to pass it through the strainer. Once again, it's giving it even a little bit more air in there, which is nice to make it really nice and light and flaky. And then I have 8 tablespoons or 1 stick of unsalted butter that I've already cut up, and this butter is nice and cold. So you just want to put your 1 stick of butter all cubed up in here. And you can do this in a food processor. You can also do this in a mixer if you want to, but this is such an easy, simple tart to make. Why mess up your kitchen and have a lot of dishes to do? Just use this 1 bowl and you can have this done in no time at all. All right, so I'm just kind of getting the butter covered with a little bit of the flour. And then you can go in, if you do have a pastry cutter, you can use that. I don't have one, so I'm just going to go in with my hands, and I just, between my thumb and forefinger, just pass the butter and flour through and just push it away from you. That's all you need to do. So let me just take a few seconds here and get this mixed up. You want it so that it's kind of crumbly. You don't want huge pieces of butter. You want nice small pieces of butter mixed in with your flour. And then our last ingredient to add to this is some ice water to bring this all together. And you're really looking to have a nice soft dough. And we're just going to press it into our tart pan, put it in the fridge while we peel and slice our apples. So for this recipe, we're going to use 4 apples, thinly sliced, and a little bit of vanilla sugar, and that's it. Just take the beans and put them in with just regular granulated sugar, and you have vanilla sugar. You can even buy vanilla sugar too if you wanted to. It just adds a really nice flavor with the apples. So that's all there is to this tart. It's simple, it's easy, it's wonderful to serve it with vanilla ice cream, and if you happen to have some homemade caramel sauce in the fridge, you can serve it with that too. Let me show you how it looks. So you can see it's nice and crumbly. There's little pieces of butter in here. Now we can go ahead and add our water. So just make a little well in the center of your bowl. And here I just have a bowl of ice water. I would start with about 4 tablespoons. Let's see how that works. We may need to add 1 more tablespoon. And then just go in and go around and do this gently, lightly, until you just kind of get a nice ball together. Okay, so here's our dough. And before we actually do that, I'm just going to butter it a little bit. I still have my paper from the butter, so I'm just going to take a little bit of butter. And you just want to lightly butter this. And you just want to go in. First, get the bottom. Make sure you have it a little thicker along the edges so you can put it up along the edges. And if it starts sticking to you, it's actually nice to have a little bit of flour. And you can just dip your fingers into the flour so it helps you to be able to press out the dough so that the dough doesn't stick to your hands. If you go apple picking and you have some beautiful fresh apples, this is the time to make this tart. The bottom is completely covered, like so. And now I'm just going to go around and pick up the dough to go up along the sides of the tart pan. And once again, you can dip your fingers in some flour and just come in and push it up. And I'm just going around and pushing the dough up the sides. And that's all there is to it. Okay, here is our tart. You can see the little bits of butter still in the dough, which looks nice. And now this is just going to go into the fridge and set up while we slice our apples. Okay, I started slicing my apples. You can see I have 2 apples here already sliced. They're nice and thinly sliced. I happen to use my mandolin because it makes the job a lot quicker, but you can certainly just use a chef knife and go ahead and slice your apples. So the first thing you want to do is peel them, and then you want to quarter them, and then this way here you're able to take out the core. So just go in and remove the center, and then we can go ahead and get the rest of these apples sliced. So what I like to do is take half of the apples into the tart shell and then sprinkle half of the sugar over the apples and then do another layer. So let's start by doing that first. And then we're just going to dot the top with a little bit of butter, just like you would an apple pie. And we will get this into a preheated oven, 400 degrees for the first 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, drop your oven to 375 degrees until your tart is completely cooked and your apples are very tender. You want to use the point of a knife or a skewer to make sure your apples have that they're completely soft and completely cooked. And that should take about 45 minutes or so, depending on your oven. Everyone's oven is different. Okay, let me go ahead and put these aside and just grab our tart pan. Okay, so just take your apples, and I mean, if you want to be very meticulous and go around and line them up, you certainly can. If you want to just pile it all in, you can do that too. It's entirely up to you. And all I'm doing is just going around the outer side, and I am overlapping the apple slices. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that if you don't have any vanilla sugar or can't find it in a store, if you can't make it yourself, if you don't normally buy vanilla beans, therefore you probably wouldn't have any. You can use cinnamon instead, especially if you love cinnamon. A lot of people love cinnamon with apples. So maybe mix the sugar, take about 5 tablespoons of sugar and mix maybe a half a teaspoon or quarter to a half a teaspoon of cinnamon in with your sugar. I'd start with a quarter teaspoon, see how it looks, smell it. If it seems like it's not quite enough, you can add a little bit more, and then you would have the flavor of the cinnamon in your tart. Okay, so you can see how I've gone around. I'm going to do this again. I still have enough apples here in my bowl to go ahead and do another layer. And then what I'll do is I'll take a couple of tablespoons of my vanilla sugar, sprinkle it over the apples, and then do this one more time. Now let's just take, this is my vanilla sugar that I just keep in this container. It smells wonderful. So just, and it also depends on what apples you use too. How sweet are your apples? For baking, I like to use a nice tart apple, a nice crisp tart apple. So a couple of tablespoons of sugar seems to work really well here. And we will just go around. This takes absolutely no time at all. Just sprinkle it around. And if you even wanted cinnamon plus the vanilla, you could, you know, mix a little bit of cinnamon in there. But I like to keep it very pure, the really nice apple flavor. So here is my mandolin. I'm just going to go in and get these thinly sliced, and then we will repeat this. Another thing to keep in mind, if it seems like the top of your apples are getting very dark, but yet they don't seem like they're fully cooked, just place a piece of foil on the top. The apples will stop browning, but they will continue baking. All of our apples are sliced. Now we can finish putting them into our tart shell. I have one layer. I'm going to start on my second layer. So I have a total of 4 layers of apples that I'm going to be using. You may want to preheat a tray in your oven. As your oven is preheating, put a tray in there so that you can set your tart directly on that, just in case any of the apples ooze over the top. Sometimes that happens, not very often, but sometimes. So if you want to play it safe so that your oven doesn't get dirty, put a tray down. You can even line your tray with a piece of foil so that it's for an easy cleanup too. So we have all of our slices, and now we'll finish it with our sugar. So let's start with a couple of tablespoons and just shake it over the top. It'll caramelize the apples, sweeten them just enough. I'd say 4 tablespoons is all I'm going to use total. You can go up to 5 tablespoons, even more if you really want it sweet. I think this is enough though, so we're gonna stop here. And then let's just finish with a little bit of butter. Just got a few pieces of butter on the top. And this can go into our preheated oven. Okay. So here is our lovely looking apple tart. I think you can get a good view of it. Little bit of butter, sprinkling of sugar, and now it can go into the oven. So 400 degrees for 10 minutes, and then I will drop it to 375 and let it completely cook until the apples are nice and tender. When it comes out of the oven, we'll brush the top with a little bit of apricot jam that I've heated up with a pinch of water just to thin it enough so that you can go around and brush the top. Okay, be back soon. I just took the tart out of the oven and it took exactly the 10 minutes plus an extra 45, so almost an hour. So about 45 minutes to an hour this should be done. And now I'm going to brush it with a little bit of apricot preserves. So I just melted, I actually did this in the microwave, and I added just a pinch of water just so that it's nice and thin and runny. And now just take a pastry brush and just go around. And I did use just a small paring knife, and I went in and it is completely cooked. So now just go around and just brush your apple slices, and you'll get a nice sheen. It looks beautiful. And you can even do the crust too a little bit. And then I'm going to come around and show you our finished tart. Here we have it. Looks great. Okay, so bon appetit, everyone. I hope you get a chance to make this. It's nice, simple, very delicious, and very easy to make. Thanks very much. See you again soon. Bye now.